Hello everyone, I'm back after a few weeks without any updates. It's been a while, I know that it's already 2026, but this time we'll continue with the second part of the 2025 Venice Architecture Biennale. In the last video, I mentioned the overall title of the Biennale, Intelligence Natural Artificial Collective, and I showed you the first main exhibition space, the Arsenale. So today we are approaching to the second main space of the Biennale, that is the Giardini, or the gardens. This is a completely different experience compared to the Arsenale. You notice that while the Arsenale offers a more linear journey through an enclosed space, and the topics are mixed throughout the exhibition, the Giardini are composed of separate national pavilions distributed across a green landscape that is basically the gardens. And why this is interesting, I think that this creates a much freer, non-sequential way of moving through the exhibition. So basically you are free to choose where to go. I mean, there is an entrance, but there is no like one direction to take. So you can choose like multiple paths. And also the fact that it's an outside experience makes it more interesting. So now we are approaching to the Giardini. We are crossing this part nearby the Arsenale. And what's the dynamic here? Each pavilion represents or is owned by a different country. In total, there are 30 permanent national pavilions. This year, just 20 of them were open during the edition. Unfortunately, the Venezuela Pavilion by Carlos Scarpa, that was one of the main architects, Italian architects in the modern movement or postmodern movement, was closed, so I could not visit it. I was quite disappointed for this. So now you're seeing the first images of the Swiss pavilion. And each country is responsible for a temporary intervention inside its pavilion. In some cases, the intervention completely transforms the interior space. In others, the changes are minimal. This depends entirely on the curatorial approach chosen by each country. For me, one of the most interesting aspects of the Giardini was not only the exhibitions themselves, but also the architecture of the pavilions. That said, there were several exhibitions and interventions that stood out as particularly interesting. Talking about the architectural diversity, you're watching the Danish pavilion from 1932. As you can clearly see, there is a strong contrast between the different pavilions' architecture. This is because the first pavilions were built at the beginning of the 20th century, a time when modern architecture was only just emerging. Pavilions such as Belgium, Great Britain, Germany, and Russia show a much more classical architectural language. It wasn't until the construction of the Austrian pavilion that I didn't record too many videos of this pavilion. In the year 1934 that we see the first clear modern architectural expression in the Giardini. This is especially interesting when you compare to the previous shown Danish pavilion from 1932, which, despite being contemporary with the modern movement, still use a more classical language. So this is an example of how modern architecture was not something that was established at the beginning of the 20th century, because modern movement was something strange at the moment. It was something radical that completely changed the vision of architecture. And some architects from this time continued using the classical language in their buildings. And because of this, the Giardini offers a unique architectural journey where each pavilion represents a different moment in the 20th century architectural history. You're now seeing the Korean pavilion. I think it's one of the last pavilions built. It was quite interesting. As I mentioned, I was more interested in the architecture of the pavilions. This exhibition, I didn't completely understand it. So, about the exhibitions and themes, regarding the exhibitions themselves, it was clear that there wasn't a single unified topic across the Giardini. However, so pavilions had a clearer and more focused architectural approach. Some of the recurrent themes include climate change and its impact on contemporary cities, new materials and alternative construction processes, reflections on domestic space, as we will see soon in the United States Pavilion. The UK Pavilion that we are approaching, first we're gonna see the Germany Pavilion that was more concerned about the climate change and how it's affecting the cities across the world, especially in Europe. And as I was mentioned, for example, in this Canada pavilion, they were showing like this new type of material that I think absorbs the carbon dioxide, but I'm not sure. And in the UK pavilion, the exhibition explored a construction techniques used historically by populations colonized by the UK, including, for example, the Native Americans and some African cultures. The French pavilion, I think this is the French pavilion, was closed, but they have like these surrounding areas that were really interesting to walk around. So the experience is also really nice because of this, the green areas, and I had to mention that it was the beginning of November, so the weather was quite good. It was a little bit cold for me, but not too much. And there were also leaves. The Japanese pavilion, more close building that had these videos. It was more about graphic design. I don't know what was the purpose of this, but it was really nice just to sit there and watching the videos without understanding the context. The Uruguay pavilion, it wasn't that interesting. It's a little bit small also. And we will pass Australia pavilion. Yeah, this was also nice. What can I say? Like they have like this remote earth wall. Maybe they use it. It was like a tradition construction method in Australia. I'm not sure. And I was mentioned previously the United States Pavilion. So they were focused on the porch, this element in the United States architecture in the domestic spaces usually. And it was very nice also to see these models and drawings. I think they were made by students from a university in the United States, but I'm not sure. And you cross a bridge to reach this space. The Brazilian pavilion was particularly interesting both for its architecture and for the content presented inside. You can clearly see looks like this type of Brazilian architecture that it's also It's also usually in Mendes da Rocha or other Brazilian architects. And there was like this like backyard with water and some flowers. It was really nice. Okay, we will pass really fast. Egypt Pavilion. As you can see, each pavilion has a completely different approach. The topics were not like the same in any of the pavilions. It's my opinion. And for example, here I was mentioning the Greek pavilion has like this more Byzantine, I don't know which type of language is this. It's like classical, like architecture with elements from more the Byzantine architecture. And we're reaching the Hungary pavilion. Very interesting. The exhibition was named "There is Nothing to See Here, Explore Your Knowledge," and was conceived as an abandoned architecture studio inhabited by red human-scale figures. The exhibition worked as both critiques and invitation. It asked visitors to rethink the role of architect in society. It proposed that architectural intelligence can contribute meaningfully beyond the act of building, and it was quite cool. Netherlands Pavilion, it was more about the relationships established in games, like how people interact in different type of games. We will pass to the Belgian pavilion, but we are reaching the last pavilion, that it's the Spain pavilion, my favorite one for the content, not for the architecture itself. The name of the exhibition, Internalities, Architectures for Territorial Equilibrium. The Spanish pavilion responded directly to the overall Biennale theme by focusing on sustainability and how architecture can reduce environmental impacts rather than generating external costs through conventional construction practices. So they were showing different type of projects made in Spain or by Spanish architects, and the materials and the methods that they used to build it, and how this it's part of the sustainable architecture, on how they are using it as a way to decarbonize architecture. So with this, we ended the Biennale tour 2025. I hope you like it, and sorry for the delay. I was expecting to finish the edition before, but I didn't have like the time. And if you enjoy it, please leave a like, write a comment with your thoughts, and share it with anyone who might find it interesting. Thank you very much, and see you next time. Ciao, ciao.